Hi guys, today's video is going to be a repotting. If you can hear that noise, I'm really sorry, it's my next door neighbour, I can't control it. This is a reluctant video. I hate repotting, it's just such a pain. I've got my soil here, I've already mixed it. It is, you might think, God, that's a lot of perlite, and you would be right, it fell in. So I just added some more coir and, mixing soil is not an exact science in this house. So we are just sort of hoping. The first thing I'm going to repot is my big Monstera. The way I like to repot if I've got a few plants to do is start with the biggest and then... So then you need to just find one pot that's bigger and then everybody else can go into the next pot along. Do you know what that... Do you get what I mean? So the next plant will go into the Monstera pot and yes, I should wash them in between, but I'm too lazy. So this is the pot my Monstera is going into. It's actually an outdoor pot. I think a lavender came in it. But it's got a drainage hole, so I'm really not that fussed. So this Monstera is... He's not... Right, so he's not got many leaves, but the leaves he has got are pretty fucking impressive. He's also really top heavy and just generally like a pain. So, but his new leaf, oh my god. His new leaf is beautiful. I can get it in the frame. Here it is. So it's considerably bigger. Like this is, like literally, it's touching my face. So he's large. He was very cheap. Like he's obviously he's basically just a cutting off a massive one someone's taken. But he was about, I want to say like $13.95, and it says on the label Monstera adansonii monkey mask. That's obviously not what he is, but we'll go with it. So there is like a big hole, drainage hole in the bottom, which is good for drainage. But it doesn't mean that water will, no it won't, what will fall out? Soil. So I like to block the drainage hole, which confuses people because they're like, does it need a drainage hole or does it not if you're just going to block it? I block it with normally like a piece of gravel. Now I'm just currently using a bit of bark. It's just to stop the soil like coming out. Water can still come out because obviously water is smaller particles than soil. I've cleaned my house already. I've just got to go and do all the vacuuming, so I feel like well organised when it comes to making a massive mess. So I'll just put a bit in the bottom there, and then I'll just take them out of the pot. Look at the stem on this thing. Oh yeah, no, he's ready. Yeah, and it looks on this side. Don't know if you. Oh my god. Don't know if you can see that. Which one is it? Here. It looks like it's having a pup. Which is very exciting. So he will just sit. Hey. He'll just sit on here. Now, Monstera grow however they want to grow. People say, oh, mine's a climber, mine's a trailer. No, they will grow however they fancy. Especially if you're not growing them. If you're growing them in good light, they don't care if they grow up or along the floor. So, and the stem is rigid. You can't like straighten it out. I mean, you probably could if you spent a long time doing it and were really gentle. If you want to train it, there's only so much you can train it. One thing I will say, Monstera have a back and a front because they grow up trees. They've got the back which produces the aerial roots and the front which produces the leaves. So this is the front, obviously, so the leaves. And then there's an aerial root coming out the back. But they will also grow however the hell they want if there's not a tree, because why not? So just bear that in mind. Like, if you want to train it, decide early on because it just gets harder. Now this is a weird shaped pot, so it's going to be a bit of a pain to infill. Especially since I'm left-handed and the soil's on my right. But like I said, it doesn't matter if I make a mess. I don't really want to waste the soil. So this Monstera has been outside. There really is too much perlite in this. It's been outside, and whilst it's not grown how I wanted it to, like as much as I wanted it to, the leaves it has produced have been beautiful. As you can see, this one is a little bit sunburnt, but that's just life. You know, it's out in the sun, it will get sunburnt. Plants aren't that bothered about being sunburnt, to be perfectly honest, as long as they've got enough chlorophyll to keep themselves going. It just looks a bit grim. So you can always just chop it off. One advantage of making your own soil is, if you use coir, I use coir, I don't use sphagnum moss, is you have to dampen it because it comes in like a compressed block, so you have to dampen it, which means the soil it's nice and damp when you go to repot without being actually wet. So it encourages the roots to grow in to the new soil. I think this is a terracotta pot, but it's like, well, varnished on the outside, so I'm hoping it won't dry out too much. Monstera in general are quite happy in terracotta pots, but because I'm an underwaterer, I am a little bit conscious of it. But Monstera in general are pretty chill when it comes to most things. I mean, I'm not one for disturbing the roots or anything when I repot, depending on what the plant is. Sometimes you need to, but I'm hoping that this will be able to get settled and maybe even, produce a new leaf before it has its little winter slumber. I don't know if this is just me, like my house, environment, plants, the place I live, but Monstera will not grow for me between October and March, and it's like they have a little clock. I've tried to fake summer by putting them really close to grow lights and making sure it's like warm and humid, but it's like they know. They've got their little calendar and they know. Poking around looking for air pockets, of which there are plenty. Right, he's done, and I'm hoping, because this is a heavy pot, I'm hoping he will be a little bit more stable. In the plastic one, he kept blowing over. I had fully intended to bring my plants in for the summer. In fact, I think they probably are in for the summer. But because it was getting quite autumnal, I was like cracking out my big coat. But then it's all warm again now, so who knows? So we'll see. But I think I am going to put him, he goes in my bedroom over winter, because it's not so cold that it'll kill him, but it's too cold for most plants to grow. But since he's not going to grow anyway, I'm really not that fussed. So in he goes. Next up we have a peace lily. This is my variegated peace lily. No, is that a bigger pot? Yeah. It's not a much bigger pot, but it'll do. So peace lilies like to be snug in their pot. They don't like to be like drowning. Well, peace lilies like everything to be just right. They will tolerate less, but they look like crap. So, and they hate being repotted. I have no idea why, but they really hate it. So you see some of the leaves, because it was in too dark a spot, are green, but then there are some newer ones that are variegated. Bit too much. I think I'm probably going to regret not putting this in a bigger pot, but oh yeah, she's ready for it. Look at those roots. I've not repotted this since I got it, so I have no idea what it's in. Ooh, whoa. Yeah. We root bound. Okay. So yeah, if this was the start of summer, I'll probably go and get a bigger pot. But since we are in September now, I'm just going to leave it as it is. I don't want to shock her too much. Really don't want to kill you, love. So there's this, if anybody else makes their own soil, have you encountered the weird discrepancies in coir? I know you can get like finer coir and go away. She is definitely snug in there. The chunkier coir is better because you can get more air to it, and I don't think it's cheaper. I think they're all the same, but they don't put on it. I buy all my ingredients from eBay, but they never put on it whether it's chunky or fine. And the annoying thing about the fine stuff is it takes ages to like plump up. And if you just leave it in soil, it won't plump up by itself. You have to like pick it apart, and I hate it so much. Today, I think I used the last of the fine stuff, and then the other stuff I've got was finer. From what I can tell, look at the weight of the coir, so see how much there is in the pack, and then look at the actual the physical size of the block. You want it to be bigger because it's not as compressed and is less messy. Less messy? No, it's just better. I mean, the fine stuff is like, it's fine, it'll work perfectly fine, but it's just not quite as good, and it's more of a pain to work with. Right, there's Miss Peace Lily. Who have we got next? Right, what pot did you come out of this one? Who can go in here? Can you go in there? That's barely an increase in pot size. I think we're going to have to find something else for you. I really need bigger pots. I'm going to have to get a bigger pot. Right, got a selection of pots. So this is my Syngonium Ice Frost that I repotted what seems like 20 minutes ago. But she needs repotting again. And like I said yesterday, and like I said last time, whoa, she really needs to be chopped because she's got no leaves at the bottom, but again, too lazy. I mean, seriously. It's too much. It's too much. And also, see, I don't use moss poles. This is just a stick. The thing about moss poles is to get the aerial roots to actually attach, you need to keep them damp all the time, and if they do dry out, the aerial roots will just drop off. Not like they won't drop off the plant, well, they might do, but they'll drop off, they'll just stop attaching. So for the price of a moss pole, you can just get a bamboo cane or something. And I don't think moss poles look amazing. If you do want it to attach, still with the... You're better off getting something that it can attach to, that it recognises as something that it can attach to, so piece of wood. There we go, Syngonium Ice Frost. I love it when they've got like a load of roots and then barely any plant. They look so funny. I mean, they look horrible, but... yeah. What have we got next? Where's my rubber plant? Oh, it's right here. It's right here. This is going to go in this pot. Rubber plants are one of those plants that some people struggle with repotting and other people don't. My rubber plant, I don't think it was bothered last time. I put it in terracotta, which I wouldn't do again. And it's really ready to be repotted. I mean, it's just throwing out roots. And it's got one long, like, thick root in there. Like, can you see that? It's like, I think this is like really root bound, but because the roots are quite fine, some of them, I didn't know. So, yeah. He's been growing well though, so I'm assuming they like to be quite, like, you get told off if you say plants like to be root bound, because root bound means different things to different people, but they like to be extremely snug in their pot. And it really depends what you want out of your plants. Okay. Some plants, hey, if you like flowers, some plants will only flower if they're feeling really stressed. A good example is snake plants. If they're stressed, they're like, shit, I'm gonna die. I better get reproducing, get some flowers out there. But is it a bad thing? I don't really know. If you like the flowers, then maybe it's worth putting the plant under stress. I don't really mind that much. Right, I hope you're a little bit happier in there, love. I want to get this to branch. I think I might try like notching it or something. I was sort of hoping it'd just do it by itself, but apparently not. Right, there you go. Who have we got now? My other rubber tree. This is my other rubber tree. Also, pretty root bound. They seem to have like one thick root that goes down the middle. Yeah, that'll do you. In you go. I was really hoping I'd use up more of the soil. In my mind, I thought I had more plants to repot, but it would appear not. I was going to wait to repot because, as I said, like I would just put this off and put it off. But I do want to see how they do in the new environment, and the best way is to wait until they start producing growth. But we are at the cusp of the growth season, especially in the UK, because we never know when the last bit of sun will happen. So, there he is. I don't know if it's too late or not. I'm not really that bothered. The only one I am bothered about is this Alocasia. Oh, that leaf's dead. Is this Alocasia Dragon Scale? Now, I am obsessed with this plant. I used to go on and on about how it was the easiest alocasia. So then obviously it started to not die, but produce weird shaped leaves like this one. But recently we put out this one and it's beautiful. And even more excitingly, she has like 1,000 pups in there. So she needs to be repotted. I don't know. I mean, look at those roots. Those are just beautiful. I don't know whether I should separate them or not. I don't really want to. I just need to see if they'll grow as they are. So I'm going to put her in quite a wide pot. It's probably a bit too big for her, but because she's growing so much... What is that? What are you? Well, you're a thrip, aren't you? Well, you were. If you're worried about thrips on alocasia, always check the newest leaves. That's where they like to be. As plants go, alocasia, they're not pest resistant. They get a lot of pests, but they're quite good at handling them, and they're really good at passing them on to other plants. So beware. If at all possible, keep them away from other plants. I mean, all of mine are really close to other plants because I do not take my own advice, but do as I say, not as I do. My Alocasia zebrina, I think I spoke about this a couple of weeks ago, has recently just decided that now is the growing season, which is ridiculous because she's done nothing. I'll just get it for you. You can see she's got a new little leaf growing there. And there's also a bit of movement on the old, so that's where the old plant was, then she put out a pup. But it's nearly like, it's September. She should have got her act together in like May. But, you know, you cannot tell Alocasia anything. They march the beat of their own drum. And they're one of those plants, like, I wouldn't recommend them for beginners at all. And I wouldn't recommend them for somebody that wants a plant that's just going to sit in the corner and look pretty. Like, they like attention. But I wouldn't say they're difficult to look after. If you give them attention, if you make sure they don't dry out, they don't need much in the way of care. As I said, I've got 7 babies off this one. I did nothing to get that. I just water her. I pick up the pot, see when she's dry, stick her in water. She's done. I don't fertilise. Alocasia are one of those plants where every website has a different idea of whether or not they're hungry feeders or not. Some say never feed them, some say feed them every 2 weeks. So I feed mine with I just give mine aquarium water, so I don't actually technically feed it. But there's fish poop in there, so there she is. God, I really hope this doesn't kill her. Is that everybody? I need to sort this out. So this, it looks like a cutting. I suppose it is a cutting, but it's really just a snap. My Florida green got too heavy and she snapped, which happens. She's in lacquer though, and plants, like, I love propping in lacquer. I think it's the easiest way to prop. But when they don't have roots and you're trying to keep them out of the water, because it's better to keep them out of the water really, because you can just end up with root rot, they fall over all the time. So I have to lean her against my Adansonii, like that. Right. Anybody else? What else was I going to mention? Oh, the only other thing I've got is, this is a Philodendron Hastatum, and I believe it has root rot because I left it in, obviously it's in lacquer, but I left it in water for too long. Like, the water level was too high. I'm really not fastidious about that because I've never had a problem before, but it would seem that I let the water level get too high. So I'm just going to have a little check to see. Oh, there's a little pup grown in there. She really doesn't want to come out, it would seem. I'm sorry, Babs, but I do need to check. There is a bit of rot. Nothing. Okay, that wasn't a pup. That was something entirely different that just fell out. I'm guessing like a grass seed or something got in there. Righty-ho. Right, so these all look okay. They don't look amazing, but I can't see it. There's a few like brown roots, but nothing startling. So this stem here isn't doing anything, and I thought it was rotting, but in fact there's like a little growth point, you can't see that, at the bottom. So I think we're okay. Doesn't smell rotten. Yeah, I think maybe it was just so the rotten bits I found were coming through the holes, so I'm wondering if maybe that was just different. Plants have different levels of white roots, so these look kind of brown, but they are, but I think they're more like they're not rotten, like they're not squishy. You'd know if they were rotten because they're gross, and you can like, but these are firm. So I'm going to leave them as they are. I'll just keep an eye on it. So there's loads of growth points coming on, you can see at the top. So I'm not that worried about it at the moment. I will just keep an eye. And I've emptied, here we are. That was what I thought was a pup. But I think it's just some sort of grass seed. It doesn't have its own roots, which makes me think it came out of a seed. But who knows? So I emptied the reservoir out yesterday, and the lacquer is still like sopping wet. Have I not put the string back in? No, I haven't. Well, That may seem like a massive issue, but I can just fill the reservoir up higher. It's not really that. I don't like, the wicking isn't the best. So yeah, that's all the plants I've had to repot. I'm really sorry that my t-shirt is like, it's actually covered in avocado, but because I was repotting and there'd be soil everywhere, I really didn't see the point of getting changed. So, because I know like this is on the internet and everyone can see, but from my perspective, I'm just sat in my house on my own, so it's hard to care, and I've already got loads of laundry to do, so let's not make extra. So yes, I hope you enjoyed this video, and if you have any questions about repotting, let me know. I do get questions about the recipe I use for soil, and there is an article on my website about it, but once you've got the basic ingredients, which are Koya raw moss, orchid bark, perlite, worm castings for fertiliser, and charcoal. Charcoal just stops impurities and stuff. You can pretty much use whatever ratio you like/have. I just mix it up until I like the way it looks, unless like today it's got too much perlite in it. But you can always change it later. You can always add a bit of more perlite or a little bit more Koya or whatever. I really wouldn't focus on it that much. This could probably do with a bit more orchid bark in it, to be honest, but it's got so much perlite in it, it'll probably be fine. So yeah, thank you very much for watching. I have a lot of soil to clean up. I will see you next week. Bye.